D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. One last time. No, we're going to be here with you for more than one more time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one last time here for the season at Bridgestone Arena. The Predators play their season finale tonight against the Anaheim Ducks. Puck drop at 7, pregame at 6, right here on 102.5 The Game. I may have scared some of our listeners with my choice of words there. This is not the season finale or series finale of D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick. We're going to keep going. Unfortunately, the Predators season will end tonight. One more game here at Bridgestone Arena before the Predators scatter for the offseason. And there are a lot of big topics of conversation about the Predators. We've already had some. We'll continue to have some today. Mike Herndon of paulkaharski.com will join us at 4 o'clock to talk about the NFL draft. Gentlemen, how are we today?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. No complaints here. I thought I was going to complain about something, but I decided not to.
Not Rex Road?
No, not Rex today. He didn't give me anything to complain about. So there's nothing to complain about. It's a beautiful day out. Well, I guess if I could complain about something, it's that it's the last game of the season.
Yes.
That's what I can complain about. But I don't think that would change anything. So let's move forward onto the show.
I did.
Yeah, I'm sad. Needless to say, I'm
yes,
sad. It's bittersweet coming
Exactly.
here tonight. It was, you look back, one game over the course of 80 could have given them a chance for a win, and in theory tonight things did work out enough to where they would have had a chance had they won on Monday night or somewhere along the way, but that is why you play 82, and that's why Gary Bettman doesn't want to play in series, because if you can't get in there after 82, then
you don't need to be in.
And I don't like the NBA play-in. I don't think
but
it's necessary.
But it seemed to work out for them, for the NBA, because they need that excitement.
I don't like
they need that excitement.
You don't like the play-in?
I hate the play-in.
I think that's the best thing, one of the best things that has happened to the NBA.
I don't like the extra wild cards in baseball. To me, 162 games, man. You get there after 162 or you don't get there.
So had they not had the play-in for the NBA, what excites you?
I mean, I love the playoffs. I love the NBA playoffs. 1 versus 8. Let's go. Win 4 series.
I guess, playoffs does bring out that excitement, regardless of what sport it is.
There's just too many playoff games, I think.
But the play-in games so far have been awesome.
Yeah, they have been.
They've been awesome.
It's not a matter of whether those games are awesome. It's just the principle of having an 82-game season. It's a lot of basketball. And we already deal with load management and all that stuff. And now you're going to say play in and then try to win 4 rounds. It's just
is it
not
still
necessary.
5-7-7?
Yes.
Okay.
4 rounds of best of 7. It didn't used to be like that. The first round used to be best of 5. Back when I was a kid,
that's what it should be. It should
be
the best of 5. Or as a matter of fact, go to the best of 3. I would love it.
Well,
but
by
then
the way,
that gives your team at times not a good chance to win. Maybe they're dealing with injury.
Well,
and they don't have their guy for the first 2 games.
Next season, Willie, 84 games in the NHL.
Woo-hoo!
No longer 82.
Yeah.
So they still would have been alive tonight.
Exactly. Absolutely. Willie, okay, this is what I want to ask you, Willie, because I know, and Adam, you can answer this too, because you've been in it long enough.
Mm-hmm.
When the season's coming, because I was thinking about this today, as the season sort of winds down for the players, and they know that there's no playoffs in sight, especially for the guys that are sort of longer in the tooth, that it doesn't hit you as the season going, even when you're fighting for that last spot. And even if it goes down to the second and last game, you're not thinking about after the season. But then once it slaps you in the face, that's when, and I think about Stamkos. Was it Stamkos? The emotions that he had in the locker room.
Oh, man.
Like it just all piles on you at once because you've worked so hard and what you wanted to achieve didn't happen. And now all these emotions pour out. How is it because y'all cover the game, especially you, Willie, because you're with them. How is it emotionally for y'all two?
Well, when you're on the journey with the team from start to finish year after year, I mean, you're not in the trenches with them, but you're close.
Exactly.
You're watching what's going on in there. And so you can get a pulse of how much it means to them. I'm sure over the course of time there have been teams that have maybe had the same one-loss record, but it didn't seem to be as big of a deal. I really hurt for this group because of how hard they dedicated themselves to turning the season around and how close they got to pulling off what would have been really a miracle in a lot of ways. To go, I remember a show we had where I think Adam had a probability of making the playoffs at 0.1% or something. And it looked so bleak. It was just, they're done. And after last year, at around the same time, they looked like they were done, and they were done. So for this group to do what they did was admirable. And it doesn't mean as much because they're not going to be in the playoffs. Like I think if they had climbed the mountain and made it, regardless of what would have happened in the first round, that would have been a big, big positive. And so I think that's what hurts the most is they came so close and it just didn't happen for them. And to a person, they know they didn't play their best game on Monday. That's what hurt. And let's give the Sharks credit. That's the best the Sharks have played against the Predators in years, really. There was a mental block, I think, for a while. But the Predators, they just didn't play as sharp as they wanted to. They tried. It's not like they didn't care. They tried hard. They just weren't connected. They weren't making plays the way they have so much. They needed one more effort like that to give themselves a chance tonight.
I'm still being blamed for the loss on Monday in the text line.
Rightfully so.
Yes,
rightfully so.
I wasn't out there.
But you put it in the atmosphere, man.
I wasn't out there. I mean, if that's what helps some of y'all sleep at night, I will take the blame. But I had absolutely nothing to do with it. But the Predators,
not on the ice, in the cosmic universe, you had a lot to do with it, and we're not going to let you forget.
Anyway, the Predators wrap up their season tonight against Anaheim. Puck drop at 7, pregame at 6, right here on 102.5 The Game. 1 week from today, thank the Lord, is the first round of the NFL draft. And let's peel back the curtain for a moment, shall we? We've been talking about the NFL draft for 3 months now? And admittedly, it is increasingly difficult to find ways to talk about the draft, talk about the same subjects, talk about the same prospects, and entertain all of you over the course of those 3 months. So today, we were thrown a lifeline by Tennessee Titans general manager Mike Borgonzi because he held his pre-draft news conference earlier today at team headquarters. And as I've said before, at this time of the year, we love to do one thing: parse, parse, parse. And boy, oh boy, did Mike Borgonzi give us plenty to parse today during his pre-draft news conference. What I admire about Mike Borgonzi is I'm not sure exactly how long his news conference was, maybe 20 to 25 minutes. He said a lot. He filled the time. But did we really learn anything from Mike Borgonzi? But this is why we parse. So, for example, one of the first questions Mike Borgonzi was asked at his pre-draft news conference was about Jeremiah Love and what he likes about Jeremiah Love and the idea of drafting a non-premium position running back at number 4 overall. Here is how Mike Borgonzi answered that question.
Do you think Jeremiah Love, even though he's a running back, he profiles to be a special running back? Do you think that that's something that would be worth a value of a high first-round pick, like, say, 4th overall?
I certainly think there's a cluster of players up there that we really like, but in particular, Jeremiah's, I think he's a special player. I've talked about this at the combine before. I think his speed, can do things out of the backfield as a receiver. But there's also a group of edge guys up there that are really good too. So I think we'll have some really good options there at 4.
Does slotting of salary come into play with who you pick or the position you pick?
I think you have to have all these discussions. But at the end of the day, we always talk about taking the best player available at that point. So those discussions, premium positions versus non-premium, I mean, those are always talked about because you're always looking at your roster and your salary cap that we have to work with in forecasting your roster for this year, next year, the years coming. So certainly those are discussions that we do have.
So let's parse.
Mhm.
Let's parse away. Hey, Jeremiah Love, he's a special player. But why did Borgonzi also mention the cluster of players who are available at number 4? Why did he mention the edge rushers unprompted in the same answer about Jeremiah Love? Does that mean he doesn't love Jeremiah Love as much as Derek Mason loves Jeremiah Love? Parse away Derek Mason.
I think he's leaving himself open because he also said, and I wrote this down because the question was asked of him. I forgot by who, but he talked about staying. Oh, the question was moving up or down. Moving down in the draft. Are you going to stay put? I think it may have been Terry that asked that question, if I'm not mistaken, Tim McCormick. And he said it's fluid. He said he didn't make any commitments to staying or moving. He said we're going to look at the board and it's fluent. We're not worried so much about, our guy not being there because, as he said, the cluster. There's a few guys that that is the good part, sort of the good part about being, in the top 4 or 5. The bad part is obviously you're a horrible team. You were a horrible team the year prior. But the good part is, typically in drafts, there are about a handful of guys that more times than not, they're going to be players for you. Like they're going to be a key component of what you do moving forward. And when you're in the top 5, it's a plethora of them. So it's like, okay, there's an outside backer, I need a backer. There's a running back, I can use a running back. There's a receiver, even though you shouldn't take one, but I can use a receiver. So they're in a spot where, I don't have to be committed to one guy, because if that one guy gets taken, then it throws everything off for me. The guys that we need all can be placed in our system, and we can go from there, whether it's Bain, whether it's Bailey, whether it's Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, or my favorite, Jeremiah Love. They feel they could take each one of those guys, plug them, and let's go. That's why, to me, mentioning when Jeremiah Love name comes up, he also mentions the linebackers or the rush ends, because what I felt listening to that press conference was they feel really good about the evaluation that they've done, and that if one guy is not on the board, then at least 2 or 3 more of the guys that they want or can use will be on the board also. So they're in a no-lose situation, I believe. The only loss is you get the guy, you bring him in, and he doesn't perform. But as far as trying to get an elite player who they deem elite, he has his pick of at least 4 or 5 guys.
I'm going to borrow a question I heard Jake Lyman ask on Next Man Up earlier today, because I am curious. 615-737-1025, our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. How many people out there are dead set against the Tennessee Titans drafting Jeremiah Love? Willie endorsed Sonny Styles, trading down and drafting Sonny Styles yesterday, but I don't want to speak for Willie here, but I don't think you would be opposed to the Tennessee Titans drafting Jeremiah Love. I want to know if anyone out there, the thought of drafting Jeremiah Love makes you queasy. I'm just curious, because I think a lot of Titans fans are on the Love train. But I want to know if there's anybody out there who is not indeed on the Love train. 615-737-1025. Willie, anything you can glean from what Borgonzi said today at his pre-draft news conference?
I think he probably accomplished with that answer what he wanted to, and that was to basically say, yeah, I do believe Jeremiah Love is worth the 4th pick. That's the key. I think you want that out there.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he believes there's other guys that would be a fit, and that is a strong position to be in. And this is me maybe reading between the lines a little too much.
Parse.
But I think it sets him up to say, call me. If you want that 4th pick, call me. I'm willing to talk. I don't know if he's already had preliminary conversations with some teams on what it would take to grab that. But I think you're in a great spot. If you like 3 guys or 4 guys and 3 of them are on the board at 4 and you can trade down, get something and still get a guy that you really like. And maybe privately he does have a guy that he really wants above everybody else. But that's what you have to do. You can't give away your hand, but at the same time, you try to read in as much as you can.
The question, and again, listen to the press conference, but so many people are asking questions, you kind of forget who asked what. But it was, when you're looking at these, 4 or 5 guys, and you're picking at 4, you have an opportunity to, whether it be on offense or defense, get a guy. But the question is always presented as, well, this is Saleh's team, which he is the head coach. So are you going to get a rush in somebody that can get to the quarterback? And the more and more I hear that, I got to also think, but he went out and specifically hired Brian Daboll, like for a reason. So just as much as anybody could say, well, it's Saleh's team and he's a defensive-minded guy, so he's going to go after that rush in, which, okay, he may just do that. But you also got to think they wanted Daboll. Daboll was the guy that they targeted. They wanted him. They wanted him to bring him in to develop their young quarterback. I would tend to think not that his opinion would be higher than Saleh's, but he has to have some sway in that meeting room about, okay, but what about Jeremiah Love? How much he can fit what I want to do on this side of the ball and our quarterback, meaning Daboll. So I understand this is Saleh's team and he's the head coach. But if I'm looking at it, what do I want to do first? This is just me. I want to help out my young quarterback. And I know we need offensive line. Well, hell, let's help him out that way too. But get him playmakers. That's what these teams have been doing for years. When they get a young quarterback, they go and get them playmakers, whether it's a wide receiver or a running back, especially if they got their offensive line set. They don't go out and, I got to draft this defense. No, we got to score points. It's about scoring points in this league.
Let's quickly go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunted.com, and welcome in Ryan, who has a Predators question for Willie. Ryan, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
What's going on, Willie? How are y'all?
Great.
We're good.
Good.
Willie, you've seen the movie Moneyball, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the greatest scene in Moneyball is when Brad Pitt and Jonah are in the parking garage, and he says you shouldn't buy players. You should get points. And me personally, I would trade Yossi and Forsberg because they're veterans, and you can get assets for them, and you're not buying them because they're depreciating value. They're not liabilities, but they're assets. And you can get younger. It's a young man's sport. Would you be against trading Forsberg and Yossi?
Thank you for the call, Ryan. Willie?
Yes, I would be against trading either of those guys. Number one, because they are your signature guys that, for lack of a better term, were born and raised as Predators, right? I know Philip Forsberg was traded for when he was 18 years old, but every chapter in his NHL career is here in this city. I think there's something to be said for holding on to guys like that, especially when you have committed to them and you've given them no trade clauses, and neither one of them is saying, I want to go anywhere. So I understand from and that's the beauty of Moneyball, right? Not just the movie, but the real story is sometimes you have to be able to detach yourself emotionally from assets and look at them as assets and say, so Ryan is not wrong by saying you could get good assets back. I don't know if you could get true value back for either one of them, but I think you do have to have some anchors as you try to build your next core, which is really, you're going to hear even more of that, I think, regardless of who they hire. for the general manager. The general manager is not going to sit there and say, let's wind the clock back and let's see if we can win the Stanley Cup this year with this group. It's not going to happen. It's a matter of how you build over the next few years, which way you want to go.
615-737-1025. Your thoughts on Mike Borgonzi's pre-draft news conference today. Let us know what you thought. 615-737-1025. I also do want to hear from Titans fans who are completely against the idea of drafting Jeremiah Love. I know that there have to be some of you out there, and I want to hear from you. 615-737-1025. We will continue to take your reaction, and we will continue the conversation coming up next. Today, the Nashville Sounds take on Worcester at First Horizon Park. First pitch is at 6:35. Catch all of the action on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Family Leisure and Social Cantina.
Last year, you made it pretty clear that the number 1 pick was not for sale, that you were intent on taking Cam. This year at number 4, are you open for business? Or are you more likely to stick and pick? And if you're open for business, how far you feel like you can go back and still get a premium talent?
It depends, and I think to answer the first question, I think we're going to remain flexible and fluid where we're at, because I do think there's a handful of players that we really do like it for. And now, we've already started the discussions, but just in terms of scenarios, if we move back a few spots, if we went back 10 spots, where would that leave us with players? So those are the discussions really over this that we've been having really over the last couple of weeks. But certainly that's one of the options, sir.
That was Mike Borgonzi on the idea of trading back next week, first round
It's
of
one
the
of the
NFL
options.
draft. It's Willie's favorite option. There is one thing I've learned this week that Willie loves more than trading back, and that's Euphoria, which I'm still shook that Willie loves Euphoria. But,
I mean,
I'm gonna try to watch it this.
It's a great show.
It's a great show.
I'm gonna try to watch it this weekend.
But
Prepare yourself.
think about Willie Donick. Think about the man Willie Donick. Just think about the wholesome, clean-cut Willie Donick.
He's still wholesome and clean cut. Especially on
Apparently,
game day.
he's got a
Especially
little
on-
freak in him.
Especially on game. Well, he's already. How many times have he said that word? He's already told you.
I got layers, too.
Exactly.
No one-
he has layers to him, man.
No one
Come
calls
on.
him Willie D for no reason.
That's right.
Ogres have layers. Onions have layers. Willie Donick has layers.
I got layers.
Willie does love trading back. So that was Mike Borgonzi's answer to Terry McCormick on trading back. You okay, Derek?
Oh, man.
Take a deep breath, my friend.
Woo, this show. I love this show.
You'll be
I love
okay.
this show.
You'll be okay.
I want to be a fly on the wall when Derek watches Euphoria. He's like, wait a minute. Willie loves this show? What?
Oh, man.
That's your homework assignment this weekend, Derek.
He's going to
Yes,
give you
I'm
a
gonna
call.
watch
If you
Willie.
really want to do it right, you have to go back to the
You got to
beginning.
binge watch. You got to
Yeah.
binge watch
Yeah.
Euphoria this weekend and get back to us. So
Well, let me throw this out there
Uh-huh.
because I was watching
Euphoria?
Mac-
No.
Well, I told you I've already watched the first
Yeah,
episode
he's
twice.
In
with that.
between viewings of Euphoria, you were watching.
Yes, I've covered the first episode. There's only one episode out in season 3, and I've watched it twice, so I'm caught up.
Yes.
So I was watching other things today. I happened to catch Pat McAfee had Daniel Jeremiah on, who I think he's a very good communicator, right? He may not be right 100% of the time, but he's been a scout. He's got a good panel of scouts on his podcast, which I enjoy listening to. And so, he knows how a lot of this works. He really believes that Love will be there at 4, and they talked a lot about the Titans and what they could do there. He entertained trading down. He also said he would be a great pick for him. The wrinkle he had was he thinks it might take a year for them to really build to where Jeremiah Love can be the difference maker that's worth the 4th pick. And he said, I certainly understand the position situation that you're in. And he also mentioned Sonny Styles. These are two guys that are the freakiest guys grade wise, but they don't play a position that typically
the
premium position. But he said, I would not let that hinder me from taking those guys. He said, if I have a 7 grade, just say if that's how you grade, different people have different ways of grading, but if 7 is the highest and you got a 7 grade, I would take the 7 over the 6.5. So this is what I wonder what's going on internally, right? Because Borgonzi said we've had these discussions. I wonder who's in there. Like, is Saleh saying, I want the defensive guy? Or is Daboll in there saying, give me Jeremiah Love and you won't believe what I've got? Because this is what happens in rooms. Like, these are humans. You've got big voices in the room. You've got scouts in the room. You got a lot of people, and you're trying to reach a consensus. And I do wonder, especially with a group that's relatively newly put together, right? This is a group that is going through their first draft, right? New head coach, second-year GM. You still got Chad Brinker. Like, what's the dynamic in the room as they try to come to this decision?
I'm trying to, because unless you're getting Bailey, which more than likely he will be gone. Sonny Styles is a hybrid. He's one of those, outliers. Numbers are great when you talk about testing on the field. He's an All-American. But like you said, he doesn't play that premium position. And then you look at Jeremiah Love, who many are considering the best player in the draft. regardless of what position. The Titans are in a position. I think the Titans are a team that needs playmakers. Either side they need playmakers. People want them to go out and get a rush in. Fine, okay, but they're still going to need a playmaker on the offensive side of the ball. And then people, you can get a guy in the second round or in the third round. You're right, but you can also get a rush in that, because of the way his defense operates, and I've said this for a long time, it's nice to have, a Chase Young or a Bosa, but what happened to his defense when those guys were nowhere around? They still were good, right? Their defenses still were good because of the way he runs the defense, the discipline he has within the defense, where he gets guys to play above what many expect them to play, because they're all playing in this defense together and they're all watching each other or having each other's back. They're communicating. So if I'm to believe that, I believe that he can take a second round rush in and make him a player for this team. If Jeremiah Love is sitting there, I want the best player. They need help at running back. It's not like they got Derrick Henry in the backfield. And I like Pollard, but it's not like they got Derrick Henry in the backfield and Jeremiah Love sitting there, and you're picking fourth and everybody said, draft Jeremiah Love. No, they don't have a Derrick Henry. Nowhere in sight. They need a playmaker, period. So if you don't feel any of these wide receivers are graded high enough, which they are not, to be drafted for, either move down and get them or stay put and you get the best. Listen to what I'm saying. The best player in the draft. That's what people are saying. I'm not making this up. Y'all are not making it up. Outside of Mendoza, who isn't the best player in the draft, but because he's a quarterback, he's going to go number one because he's really good. But everybody is telling you Jeremiah Love is the best player in the draft, regardless of position. So why not go get a guy that you're going to need because he's a playmaker? Why not go get that guy and say on the defensive end, let's go get us a guy in the second round, and we believe in what Robert Saleh and his defense can do, and Robert Saleh is going to make him into a player.
Here are some anti-lovers, I guess you could say, on our text line, 615-737-1025.
They ain't about love.
Sonny says, I am very against taking Love at number 4. It's not about him as a player, because I think he will succeed in the league, but I think it's too high to take a running back. Unless I'm forgetting an example, it has not worked out for any team in my eyes. Is Bijan Robinson the top player in the league? Yes, but I don't think their record is any different if Tony Pollard is there at running back. I believe you can get similar production for much cheaper.
I don't know
I'd
about
much
that.
rather draft Bailey or trade out. I understand the Titans don't have full control of that, but that's my opinion.
That comment he made about Pollard being in Atlanta, and they wouldn't. Bijan Robinson. See, when someone drills something in your head for so long, you're going to believe it no matter what. No matter what the trend may be telling you, or what things are telling you, or what you're seeing on television, you're going to believe what you're going to believe. Whether it be Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, I'm not just talking about any old average running backs when I say these guys' names. These are Jahmyr Gibbs. These are elite running backs. So when you got a chance to get an elite player, you go and get them.
Let me go through quickly recent top running backs drafted into the NFL. I will extend it to top 12 so I can include Jahmyr Gibbs. So we'll say top 12. Ashton Genty at number 6 in 2025. Jury's still out. Bijan Robinson, number 8 overall in 2023. Good player. Jahmyr Gibbs, number 12 in 2023. Good player. Saquon Barkley, number 2 overall in 2018. Great player. Leonard Fournette, number 4 in 2017.
He's a good player.
Christian McCaffrey, number 8 in 2017. Ezekiel Elliott, number 4 in 2016. Todd Gurley, number 10 in 2015.
Damn good player.
I would say the last bust drafted with a top 12 pick at running back was Trent Richardson.
Yes.
Number 3 overall in 2012. So I do think, again, Derek, we've talked about this for months. There is this sort of mental blockage, of drafting a running back that high. But the hit rate has been pretty good.
Especially when, again, I can see if he was, well, many had him as the top running back, but the 15th best player or the 10th best player. Okay, we can go with that. You don't draft him as high. Maybe you can move down and still get that guy and pick up a pick. But many are regarding him as the best player in the draft at a position that you don't need right now. But if you add it, it will sure enough bolster your offense with a young quarterback still developing. I understand they got to get to the quarterback, but I trust, because even last year with a beat up and hobbled defense, they didn't have a dominant rush in, but they played well at times. Injuries just got the best of them completely last year. But they played well at times without that 12 plus, season sack season guy out there, or 10 sacks a season guy. They didn't have neither one of those guys. But when they were healthy, they played well, because why? Defense is about everybody communicating. Everybody and knowing what each one does, or area they're covering. If they can have that same type of sort of production without the injuries, they're not going to need this dominant. Again, it's nice to have one, but they're not going to need this dominant rush in. Just look at the game now. I think Willie brought up we talked about a stat.
I was
at
just
the
about to bring
beginning
that
of
in.
the,
Why don't you hold on to that?
Oh, you would like me to hold on to that?
Yeah, hold on.
Yes.
All right, because let me inject this too before I give the stat. Is there a difference in the 4th pick, which they have, the 8th pick, which was Robinson, or the 12th pick, which was Gibbs? Like, the higher you go, maybe there's more risk, would you say? Like, I don't think everybody's like, oh my God, I cannot believe the Lions took a running back at 12. I don't think that was the narrative, as much as if they had taken Gibbs at 4.
Mm-hmm.
There's a pretty sizable gap there, in my mind.
Yeah.
615-737-1025. Willie will share that stat coming up next. 615-737-1025. We will also take your reaction as well. We see your phone calls. We see your text messages. We'll get to them next. 615-737-1025. Let me tell all of you to tee it up with us at the 5th Annual 615 Open, May 28th at Hermitage Golf Course. We are once again supporting Folds of Honor to help them fund life-changing scholarships for families of America's fallen heroes. Register now to player sponsor at 615open.com.
If there was a player that you absolutely loved that Robert did not like, would that be hard for you to draft that player knowing that he's the one that has to coach him? Or is this where you being the personnel guy and being assigned the job of building the roster versus coaching the roster would take a precedence?
Yes, you would never take a player that a coach does not want. It's happened over the years. I've seen it. I've been in the league for a long time. That's how you develop friction in the organization. You need buy-in when you're taking these players. So whether it's a position coach or it's the head coach, that's why you have so many of these discussions, headed into the draft, and you never want to force a player onto a coach that they don't believe in.
That was Mike Borgonzi earlier today at this pre-draft news conference. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. We have a lot of reaction. 615-737-1025. Let's start with Dave on our phone line. Dave, thank you for calling and waiting. Please go ahead.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Derek, would you punch my ticket on the love train? I need a seat.
All right. You got it.
My viewpoint is basically looking at the offense right now, today. And when you use the word elite, that we think that this running back might be elite. Well, I have to ask the question, do we have an elite tight end? Do we have an elite wide out receiver? Do we have an elite running back now? And most important, do we have an elite quarterback? We don't know. It's very unknown. Scares me to death, a shoulder injury also. So I'm looking for an elite, instant impact on the offense, and that's why I say put me on the love train.
Thank you, Dave. Derek will save you a seat. Let's go to Gil on our phone line. Gil, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, yeah, I'm on the love train too. I mean, but my thing is, it's like, if we get another game changer, you have to overpay year in and year out. We're at the 4th pick. So if we can get Love, the game changer, we just have to dedicate ourselves to Cam Ward and Love and fix the offensive line and bring some big dogs over there on that line and get it going. But my thing is, I just want us to take Love and move forward with that. And if we can do that, I think our coaches can coach. And I honestly think we can get a defensive end in free agency that can come in on a 1-year patch. We can't fix everything in the year, but I just don't see nobody else available that can do what Love can do.
Thank you, Gil.
Okay. The caller brought up something in sort of a sideways sort of way, in a sense. He didn't actually say it. But why can't, because he's right from this standpoint. I enjoyed his answer, but he was right from this standpoint. Your young quarterback, you got to have he needs some playmakers. And the receiving core, I think Calvin Ridley is a good player, and he can get you explosive plays, but he just hasn't presented himself as an explosive player every game. Like a guy that you just know that he's going to be that dude. And a lot of it had to do with him being off and on the field because of his injuries. And then he's had some lapses in concentration catching the football. Then you look at the tight end position, and Gunnar Helm, I think he's going to be a good player, but their playmaker they got rid of. And listen, I'm not saying y'all know how I felt about Chig. I thought they should have kept him, but they allowed him to go sign somewhere else. But he was their playmaker, and he proved that in the tight ends room. So this is an offense outside of the quarterback that is starving for playmakers. He's right. You have to build up your offensive line, and you can do that. But why isn't that people can't look at it from this standpoint? We can get us a rush in later. It's easier, I think, to go and get a good rush in than to find an elite running back like Jeremiah Love. That's what people are not understanding here. It's easier for me to go out and find a good defensive end that's going to get you 10 sacks, 10 sacks, but it's harder to get that elite player. I'm not just talking about a running back that's going to get you 700-800 yards, and he may not be all that in the passing game. We're talking about an elite guy, a Saquon Barkley, a Jahmyr Gibbs, a Christian McCaffrey, a Bijan, those type of backs, Those backs don't come around too often. And when you have an opportunity to get one at a position that you do need help and you do need playmakers on your offense, again, this league has told us from year in and year out, based on the rule changes and everything else, we value offense over defense, and we want to score points. He will help you score points if you go out and get it.
Willie, you brought to our attention an interesting trend that's happening in the NFL right now, and it does relate to the Titans potentially drafting Jeremiah Love.
Yes, and you know what? I don't think I would have guessed this if somebody just floated the question at me. So I found this very eye-opening. In the last 15 years, the most run-heavy seasons have been the last 2 seasons. And I'll give you the specifics here. This is a tweet from Football Perspective. From 2010 through 2025, the 2 most run-heavy seasons have been 2024, 56.6% passing, and 2025, 56.2% passing. In 1995, teams passed more frequently than they did in 2025. Now that I never would have believed.
Yeah, I wouldn't have. Yeah.
Because like you said, when I told you this, Derek, the league kind of runs in cycles, right? Like there was a time when you were playing, especially Bill Cowher, Jeff Fisher, they were like, we are not going to let you run. The Ravens are like, we will lose the game before we let you run. So we're going to jam up the box. We're going to make Eddie George work for every yard he gets. And it was still a battle of the trenches because the Titans were like, go ahead. We're still going to smash you, and we're going to grind it out. We're going to find our way to get our rushing yard. And then the trend kind of changed to, all right, run it some. We're going to back up. We're going to give you the short plays, but we're not going to give you the explosive plays. And that's kind of the mindset. But it seems to be cycling back a little bit to, okay, you're going to back up. We'll run it. So when I saw that, I was like, is that an argument that Jeremiah Love is worth the 4th pick?
Here's more from Football Perspective on that. Quote, of course, the NFL spent decades learning that passing was more valuable than rushing. Then it spent another couple of decades leaning into that lesson. But by the end of the 2010s, the league may have pushed close to the natural limit of that process. It is probably a bridge too far to say that coaches are once again focused on establishing the run in some old-fashioned sense. We all know we are operating in a world where passing is still king, but it is no longer an unchecked one. If the 2008 version of this argument was passing isn't as much better than rushing as you think, and the 2015 and 2019 versions were teams pass more because passing really is more efficient, then the 2025 update is something like this. Passing is still better, but the league may have already extracted most of the easy gains from passing more.
They've changed the rules, and they've made passing the football. I'm not going to say it's easier. I guess it is in a sense, but anytime, I mean, you have your, things that can go wrong when you drop back to pass. But we've all seen it where the league has geared toward, making games exciting. And what makes games exciting? Deep passes down the sideline, one-hand catch, diving catches, things like that. Your favorite quarterback dropping back, and he's throwing the ball 35, 40 times, and he's throwing for 400 yards. That's what the league has sort of morphed themselves into. But now teams are starting to get, smart. Like, okay, if y'all going to put in a smaller group on that back end and with those linebackers, y'all want to have all these fast linebackers that can cover everybody. You know what I'm going to start doing? I'm going to start handing the ball off. And when you can have a guy like Jeremiah Love, why do you think – one reason I think Derrick Henry has been so successful is because he's damn near bigger than the guys that try to tackle him. He's bigger than all the safeties. He's bigger than all the corners. He's bigger than half of the linebackers. And the only people he's not bigger than is the defensive line. So back in the day, we had linebackers that were, 6'2", 250, 260. They were big guys. So running the football or these big mammoths on the line of scrimmage. So it was harder to run a football back then. But now that you've gotten a little bit more athletic at those linebacker positions or athletic in the secondary, you know what I'm going to start doing? I'm going to start handing the ball off again. Because when you're in this nickel package all day, your guys ain't going to hold up on Derrick Henry. You're going to have to make a decision. If you're going to put a big package in to try to stop Derrick Henry, and then if I got a quarterback, we're going to throw the football, or you're going to put that small package, and I'm going to turn it all around and hand it to him. Either way, we're going to get you. That's how the Titans need to be. That's where I think running is starting to go. Put those little guys on the field if you want to after a while. We're going to maul you. That's why having an offensive line in this day and age, you ain't even have to have the greatest offensive line. Just a NFL-type offensive line. They're going to dominate. You know why? Because those guys on the other side are smaller now.
One texter says, I wasn't for drafting Jeremiah Love at first until you guys convinced me over the course of these months.
We did our
But
job.
my original thought process against Jeremiah Love was that we've drafted really good running backs in the past, like Derrick Henry. It made it far, but it wasn't enough. Drafting a good running back or even an elite running back wasn't enough to push us over the edge into late playoff games or even the Super Bowl consistently. And so I thought to myself, what is going to make this time so different?
In regards to drafting Love and
the texter's point was he was against drafting Jeremiah Love
Yes.
because the Titans have had many good to great running backs,
Yes.
but it hasn't gotten them over the hump. So why would drafting Jeremiah Love be different this time versus Derrick Henry and Chris Johnston? Chris Johnson, not Chris Johnston, the NHL insider, and Eddie George, so on and so forth.
What I can say is this. The year that, and because I'm going to go by each year, Eddie and Steve led us to a Super Bowl. So we got to a Super Bowl, didn't win it, but we got to a Super Bowl. Let's move to the Chris Johnson era. Many think had Chris Johnson not got hurt.
You're admitting this.
I'm not admitting
You're on the
anything.
Ravens.
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying there are many out there.
Some
All
are
of them-
saying,
all
many are
of-
saying,
all of them are in Nashville.
people are saying.
Yes, all of them are in Nashville saying had Chris Johnson not gotten hurt, they would have had the likelihood of them getting to the Super Bowl would have been a lot higher had he not gotten hurt in the game that he played against us. So you're talking about Chris Johnson. Then you look at Derrick Henry. Just think if Derrick Henry had not gotten hurt and that had not been his first game back, they wouldn't have allowed the quarterback to throw as many times as he did. And they would have went further, I believe. So there's a point where it comes where, okay, yes, a running back, at least in the Titans era, after Eddie and Steve, a running back hasn't gotten them to the promised land. But a running back was in a position to get them there, but something happened in each turn, whether it was Chris Johnson or it was Derrick Henry. Something happened that sort of, took them off the path a little bit.
615-737-1025. We'll continue to take your reaction to Mike Borgonzi's news conference and the NFL draft. First round 1 week from today. But coming up next, Mike Herndon of PaulKaharski.com will join the program. We'll talk to him about the NFL draft and more coming up next. 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We are live at Bridgestone Arena for the Predators season finale against the Anaheim Ducks. Puck drop at 7, pregame at 6, right here on 102.5 The Game. We are efforting Mike Herndon of PaulKaharski.com. So as soon as we get him on the line, we will bring him to you. In the meantime, let's go to Richie from White House on our text line. He has an interesting question. He says, let's say the Titans decide to trade back to number 12 with the Cowboys. By trading back, they lose on drafting Love, Reese, Bailey, or even Styles, and they ultimately end up drafting Ruben Bain with the 12th pick. What would y'all's reaction be, and how do you think the fans would feel about that pick?
I think trading down to 12 would be a little low based on what we think we know about this draft. Unless you're getting more than just 12 and 20. Like, if you get 12, 20, and some more, like, there's a certain level where you have to take the volume of picks. But I don't know if it's just 12 and 20.
Yeah, I'm not sure how far down they would want to go, especially if they're just swapping spots and then getting, another pick in say, the second round. Mine would be, as Willie said, it needs to start with 2 first-round draft picks, and we know only a few teams have that this season. So it just depends on, if you're listening to Borgonzi and he's confident that his the players that they want or players that they want will still be there for, how confident would he be if they move down? Even though he said it's fluid, if they move down 2 spots, would he be comfortable with that? Would he be comfortable if they move down 5 or 6 spots? Which one? When does he lose that comfortability?
Yeah. I'm glad that question was asked because Borgonzi answered the question.
I'd be more forgiving of the short arms at 12 than I would be at 4.
I'm sure.
That's all I'm saying. Let's go to our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com, and welcome in Mike Herndon of PaulKaharski.com. Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're doing well. Thank you for joining us once again. So, Mike, I know that you have been studying the NFL draft incredibly closely. So, 2-part question for you. Here's part 1. I want you, this is more of a statement, I guess, actually. I want you to lay out your dream Titans draft. Who do they take at number 4 overall, and which other prospects do they take with their top 100, or I guess in the Titans' case, 101 picks?
Okay. All right. Good. All right. I like it. And listen, I know a lot of people love Jeremiah Love. I do too. But if I'm dreaming, I think the best player that could fall to them that would help them the most at 4 is David Bailey. And so if I'm living in dream world, I know there's a lot of rumors out there that he might go 2 to the Jets. I want David Bailey to fall to them at 4. So I'll give them Bailey at 4. 35, gets interesting. If one of the wide receivers like Omar Cooper or Casey Concepcion, both of whom I love in this class, is available at 35, that they'd be close to run to the podium type of guys. But if not, I'd be super interested in a tackle like Matt Iannaccio out of Arizona State, or one of the guards like Emmanuel Pregnon or Chase DeSantis or Keelan Rutledge in that spot. If I'm dreaming, give me Omar Cooper. I love that guy's game. I think he'd be an impact player right away, and a great fit for Brian Dable offense, and a great fit for what Cam Ward's strengths are as a quarterback as well. A guy who can create after the catch and play. So if I'm going there, my favorite player, I think at 66, that if he's there, I'm kind of banging the table for, is Keontae Scott. And he's just a perfect fit for Robert Saleh's nickel, in my opinion. Guy that plays like a linebacker, also tested off charts athletically. Has played a lot of football, played a lot of really good football for Miami last year in a role very similar to what he would be asked to play in Tennessee, and would kind of really complete that trio of starting corners in your secondary and give you a really nice group there, in my opinion. And then if I'm going 101, that's kind of where I start looking at the centers and the interior offensive linemen, especially the center group. Connor Lew is probably my favorite of that group, and then Logan Jones would kind of be the other one. So one of those two, if they're there at 101, I think would be a wonderful fit for the Titans.
All right, Mike, now I'm going to ask you the exact opposite question. I need you to lay out for me your nightmare scenario in the Titans draft. What would be the worst case scenario for the Titans in those top 101 picks?
All right. So to me, I guess at 4, I'm going to say I think Sonny Styles is a great player. I've got some serious reservations about taking him at 4. I could see it happening. I could understand maybe why they'd go that way. But it's not the guy that I would want them to invest in at 4. So if they go Styles there, and then I'd say maybe at 35, they, reach for, a Chris Brazell or Jeremy Bernard type of wide receiver that I don't think is probably worth 35 and maybe obscure other positions. Like, I think 35 should be 100% in play for them to take a tackle, for example. I know a lot of people disagree because it's not a day one starter, because you're probably not, ousting Dan Moore or J.C. Latham right out of the gate. But if you don't want to pay Dan Moore next year $20-something million to play below average left tackle, you better go get your guy now, because you can't do it next offseason and cut him. He's going to be on the roster if you wait till next year. So anyway, so I'd say if they reach for a receiver at 35, and then maybe go off the board and do something crazy like a interior defensive lineman at 66 and just fail to address, edge rusher altogether or any of the premium positions, and they're just kind of picking up, a bunch of guys that are not necessarily premier players at premier positions. So that would be a nightmare draft for me.
We're talking with Mike Herndon. You can catch his work at paulkarski.com. Now, Mike, this would be the second year of Borgonzi being GM. And obviously they have a new coach, but we saw what they did last year, drafting a quarterback first overall, but really going heavy offense, trying to surround their young quarterback with some guys that can develop with them. Can you see them doing that once again? Because we still have the same GM, and I'm sure Saleh would understand, being a former head coach, that, hey, what's going to help your young quarterback is you continue to add, playmakers for him. You can see what Cincinnati did. You can see other teams that have sort of taken that path of drafting a quarterback, but then in consecutive years, sort of going heavy on that side of the ball to help out your young quarterback.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, you see it with like the Joe Burrow and then Jamar Chase. Picks back to back. And the Bears obviously did it with Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze, not to mention going and trading for DJ Moore. So I do think it's important to try to get him weapons as quickly as possible, especially young guys that he can grow with as he matures. I think DK and Iomanner are worthwhile guys to have in the rotation. I don't know that either one of them is ever going to be a top line wide receiver 1. Now, I think there's probably 6 receivers in this draft that I think, there may be a couple more that if you squint hard and try to see the upside, you could see them eventually being wide receiver 1s. But I think there's maybe 6 guys that I could see being like really, your number 1 go-to option in a passing game. And if all those guys are gone by 35, because I don't really think Kate is a guy that I would want at 4. I just think he's not the kind of receiver that you draft in the top 5. He's the kind of guy that, you maybe like 10 to 15. But there's only so many guys that may be available at 35. And if none of those are on the board, I don't think they should force a pick there just to take one. I'd be okay with taking Ted Hurst, maybe a little later on, or Skylar Bell or Chris Bell, either one, in trying to, maybe take a swing at some of those guys that have some upside that are not, quite the finished product that some of those top 6 guys are. But yeah, they've got to get him more help for sure. And I also think help on the offensive line, because you don't need him running for his life. So a guard and a center pick and a tackle pick, frankly, that's supporting your quarterback as well. Especially, a guy that like Ward sit back there and play make. The more time you give him to do that, the more have to even get his maybe below average wide receivers open and make some plays on the field.
Now, is that something that we're sort of overlooking? I know we made a big deal about it, Mike, at the beginning of free agency, where they went heavy on defense. They got them 2 corners. They got a defensive tackle to pair with Simmons. They got some outside guys. They traded for a guy. These are all the things that we're sort of, I know we're far removed from it, but are we forgetting about what they have done already on the defensive side of the ball? That they are, if you just look at it based upon personnel, I would tend to think they are ahead of, the offense when you're talking about potential playmakers on that side of the ball.
Oh, I completely agree with that. I mean, I think you arguably have the best, and maybe not even arguably, you have the best defensive tackle pairing in football when it comes to rushing the passer, with John Franklin Myers and obviously Jeffrey Simmons. Jermaine Johnson, I think it was a good bet for a guy that, showed some real flashes early in his career before the injury, and you're getting him on that second year back from the injury. He should be closer to pre-injury form this year. I think that's a good bet. I also like Jacob Martin as a rush end rotational guy. I mean, he's a guy that's good for 5 to 6, 7 sacks. Kind of that Arden Key sort of role that we've had the last few years. He's not a frontline guy, but he's a solid NFL pass rusher. So I think between that solid scheme and then some of the investments at corner, I think the defense is in a spot where I'd be surprised if they're not league average. The offense, a little bit more holes that are glaring, and they just don't have that headliner to go with Ward, right? Like there's nobody, if you're writing a defensive coordinator's, board the week of playing the Titans, like I don't even know who you put on the top of the board to take away, right? Is it Calvin Ridley, Wan'Dale Robinson? I mean, those guys are fine players, solid NFL starters, but none of them are scaring you as a defensive coordinator. They really need that top line guy. And I think that's where the argument goes with Jeremiah Love, right? And why so many people were infatuated with him, because he would be that guy if you take him at 4.
Mike Herndon is with us, paulkaharski.com. Mike, do you think that Will Levis gets dealt in this trade week or this draft weekend?
I sure think the Titans would love him to. And nothing against Levis. I just think, clearly the end of the road is there. I think them signing Hendon Hooker, obviously Mitchell Trubisky this offseason, it kind of is the writing on the wall. They're building out depth, and they're not really planning for Levis to necessarily have to be the QB2. I think that's going to be Trubisky's job. And then you've got Hooker as kind of an emergency quarterback practice squad guy to kind of hang around. So I would sure bet that they'll try to deal Levis. I don't know how much interest there'll be out there. If I was in another team, though, I honestly would have some interest in Levis. I mean, he's certainly got physical talent. I definitely think he's a smart guy, hard worker, all that stuff. You put him in the right system, support him. It wouldn't be outside of the question for me to see him blossoming in a place like, the Rams, for example, where he could sit for a year behind Matthew Stafford and maybe, take that job over, or at least get a shot to if Stafford chooses to hang him up after this year. But, I think the Titans would love to see him dealt. I'm sure Will Levis would love to be dealt to a place where he might have more upside and opportunity. And I bet they'll be looking to make that happen throughout the weekend.
So do you think there is real value based on what you just said, where they could actually get an asset and not just, hey, take this guy, we don't need him?
I think what you're looking at realistically would be like a, 1 or 2 round pick swap on day 3 is probably realistic. So like maybe you get somebody's 4th and you give them your 5th and Will Levis. And that is real value. I mean, being able to move up, especially if you could take one of those 5th round picks and move up to the top of round 4 or even, to the back end of round 3, getting closer to that top 100 range where there's still some really valuable players left on the board. That's real value to me. I think that's a deal that would be worth doing if they could get something in that 4-5, 5-6 kind of pick swap range for Levis. I'd be willing to pull the trigger on that and kind of move on.
Mike, let's go back to your nightmare scenario. You mentioned Sonny Styles at number 4. I found it fascinating. I believe it was yesterday. They sort of run together at this point. That Todd McShay, Mel Kiper, and Dane Brugler all had the Cowboys trading up from 12 to 6 with the Browns and drafting Styles at number 6 overall. If the Titans were to trade down and draft Styles, would you be as opposed to it? And why? And why are you not as high on Styles as a lot of people seem to be with the Titans?
So I guess it's not that I'm not high on Styles, the player. I think he's an excellent linebacker prospect and probably one of the best linebacker prospects we've seen in the last, 5-10 years. I just think taking a linebacker inside the top 5 is a little rich for me versus, I think there's probably going to be a really good edge rusher. I would even rather have a running back than an off-ball linebacker if I'm looking at how I'm trying to support Cam Ward. And if I'm taking a non-premium position, which both of those are, I'd give me Love over Styles. So I just don't think there's a scenario where I feel like he's the best option for them there. Now, a trade back and take Styles, absolutely. I mean, he could easily be your Fred Warner in this defense. Him and Cedric Gray would pair wonderfully together because Styles is excellent in coverage and can really move and has a ton of range to kind of pair with Gray, who's a little bit more of a thumper downhill guy. I mean, they'd be one of the best linebacker pairings in football, pretty much straight out of the chute. So it's not that I don't like Styles. I struggle with the value there. But a trade down, absolutely. If the Cowboys want to give you, the moon and stars to move down to 12 or whatever it may be, I'm totally open to that possibility.
Mike Herndon of PaulKaharski.com has been our guest on D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick. Mike, as always, excellent insight. Enjoy the draft next week. We'll catch up afterwards for sure.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon.
615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on what Mike Herndon had to say. He does outstanding work for PaulKaharski.com. But coming up next, we will switch gears to the Nashville Predators, who will play their final game of the season tonight against Anaheim, a 7 p.m. puck drop here on 102.5 The Game. Some really interesting comments yesterday from Steven Stamkos. We will play and discuss those coming up next. 615-737-1025. Before we do that, however, all of our offseason coverage here on 102.5 The Game is proudly presented by Tennessee Brewworks, finely tuned craft beer for finely tuned fans. Tennessee Brewworks, the official craft beer of the offseason coverage here on 102.5 The Game.
Hey, this is Derek Mason, and you heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting some type of goal or resolution to shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment. But I got some good news because at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Live at Bridgestone Arena.
Oh, man.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Y'all were talking about my shirt, man.
We're hyping you up.
Oh, man.
We should all strive to look as good as Derek Mason when we're
That's right.
Derek Mason's age.
I'm 52 and still aging.
Going backwards.
Yeah.
If not for the gray in your beard,
Yeah, you wouldn't know.
you could pass for 45.
Hey, but I have this thing on my wrist. I ain't gonna shout it out, but unless they want to promote the show, a regular on the show as far as
Let's have our people talk to their
exactly, our people.
Yes.
So I have this little band on me, and it sort of tracks everything, sleep, everything, and it tells you at the beginning. It goes through everything. And my chronological age, obviously, is 52, but my biological age is 28.
Damn. Good for you, Derek Mason.
That's what the phone says. That's what the app says that's connected to my body.
I would be scared out of my mind to hook myself up to that thing. You're 37, but your biological age is 65.
Listen, I don't know
I'm
how
not
accurate
signing
this
up for
stuff
that.
is. It's accurate enough for me. Let's
Yeah.
just say that.
All right. We will get to the Predators. We will do so now because Adrian is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com, and he has a Predators question. Adrian, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Okay, so being in the Western Conference is kind of like being like in your church softball league. I mean, the bar's not that high. We were watching points for the last 2 weeks trying to get into the playoffs, and I get that. But if you look at the entire NHL, standings, we're down the line. And so tonight, it's not a question. I'm just going to address the floor. Can we not have a media on ice night tonight? Can we not dress up Willie at starting center, put Joe Rexroad, second string goalie? I think that we ice you guys. I think we ice you guys, and whatever happens, happens. And if we take the loss, that's okay. That's okay.
Adrian wants to improve the draft stock.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you for the call, Adrian.
Okay.
One, I mean, who would be in net? Would it be you, Willie? I think
heck
Willie. Somebody, we gotta have Willie in net. Willie would be in net.
I don't
Taller.
know.
I could stand there.
I don't know if Rex Rose can fit skates over his gout feet.
Yeah,
though.
his gout feet. He may
Yeah.
we got to retrofit
Yeah.
his shoes and put the
Yeah.
skate underneath. But outside of that, man,
Ooh, man, that's.
I mean,
rough.
Robbie.
Now,
Robbie, yes.
I do think like the details are a little sketchy right now, but I do think you're going to see some new faces in the lineup tonight. They've just recently signed a couple of guys, so you'll see some youth tonight and some guys that are banged up. Probably may not go, so they're going to still try and play hard, play a good game. And Anaheim does need to win this game. Anaheim has got a lot to play for. It's a really interesting scenario. The seeds, Anaheim, LA, and Edmonton are all still fluid. Who's a wild card, who's 2, who's 3 in the Pacific. And guess which bracket none of those 3 teams want to be in?
That second
The
one.
Central bracket. They do not want to be in the draw and have to play Colorado in the first round. So the loser of this 3-team deal
Is
gets
that
the
guy.
Avs. Gets the Avs in the first round, and if they were to pull off a big upset, they get to play the winner of the Stars and the Wild. That is a tough road. The winner of this little 3-team group gets to have home ice advantage in the first round against one of the other 2. And if you win, you play the winner of Vegas and Utah. So that's a very different path. Very different.
By the way, according to my favorite website, tankathon.com, the Predators have 2.5% odds to win the draft lottery. The Predators at this moment cannot pick number 1 overall because they are at 12th and they can only move up 10 spots. But that's where they are right now. We'll see where they are tomorrow once the regular season comes to an end.
I think there's only one team that they can slide behind, and that would be St. Louis, if I've got that right. That was just me eyeballing it this morning. St. Louis could win. If they lost, they would have the same amount of points, and St. Louis has more regulation wins.
That appears to be correct.
And if the Predators won, they would pass the Devils and move up a notch. So I'm not saying you're trying to lose. I mean, I think they want to. I think they want to win. But
yes.
But regardless, they can't get the first pick.
No.
Right?
They
You can move up a maximum of 10
correct.
spots.
So at the moment, the Predators are in the 12th spot. So if they were to win the lottery, they would have the number 2 pick in the NHL draft.
So if they slid down one spot, if all went well, you could still get number 1. That's what happened to the Islanders last year. They were right around that mix. And the way I look at it, it stunk for the Predators, but I hope that the reason you have a lottery is to hopefully reward teams that don't tank. Don't tank.
Yeah. Well,
we'll look at.
I think in the universe over the long period of time, you're rewarded for not tanking.
This guy to my right, that's what he wanted.
Why is my favorite website tankathon.com? Emphasis on the tank. But we'll look at the draft odds once the regular season is over. Today, by the way, is the final day of the regular season in the NHL. The Stanley Cup playoffs start on Saturday. Always love the Stanley Cup playoffs, even when the Predators aren't in it. But I do want to play some comments from Steven Stamkos. These come courtesy of Alex Daugherty of the Tennessean. And Alex spoke to Steven Stamkos after practice yesterday, the Predators' final practice of the season, so that we can hear all of the comments. We're going to play the clip in full. It's about a minute and a half, a minute 40 seconds. We'll play the exchange between Alex and Steven Stamkos, but some interesting comments from Stamkos yesterday. Let's play those comments now.
Again, came here with, playoff aspirations, right? So, we failed the last 2 years, and that's what's so hard. Like I said, we have such a great group of guys here, and you want success for everyone, and you want success for yourself, and helping the team have success. And it's tough to have one and not the other. So it's like I said, that was my expectation when I signed here, was to be playing playoff hockey, and we haven't. So it's tough to call a year anything other than disappointing.
Sure, and but can you see any? There've been some growth with some of the young guys like Woody.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's going to be a lot of questions this summer. There's no doubt. I mean, we'll have to see who comes in as GM and what his vision is going forward. I mean, I can't tell you a thing, just like you can't tell me a thing about what the future of this team is. Someone could come here and say we want to complete tear down and rebuild, and that's the way it's going to go. We could have someone come in here and say, listen, you guys were close this year. We believe in the older guys in the core of this team, and we want to help build that with bringing in even more younger guys and impact players. So, I mean, I think that's the route that we all hope for, but there's too many unknowns right now with regards to the future of the team. We saw a glimpse of, what the young guys can do this year, and that was definitely a positive thing. Guys got thrown into some meaningful hockey games, which is fantastic for their development, and they played well. And that's all you could ask for. It's just right now to reflect on the season with one game left and not being in the playoffs is it's disappointing.
Tomorrow doesn't mean.
That was Steven Stamkos after practice yesterday, and he didn't say anything there that you wouldn't expect him to say. Of course, it's disappointing when you don't make the playoffs. As he said, quote, my expectation when I signed here was to be playing playoff hockey, and we haven't done that. It's tough to call the year anything other than disappointing. And he does make a good point, Willie. Nobody knows what the future holds. We'll see what the new GM decides to do. But I do wonder about the future of Steven Stamkos. I know that he wanted to be here this year. I'm sure if he wanted to move at the deadline in early March, maybe he could have. The contract may have made it more difficult, but someone certainly would have taken Steven Stamkos at the trade deadline if he were available. But one thing I thought of as I heard those comments was, if the new GM decides that, hey, we're going to take that step back, we're going to put more youth into the lineup, we may not win as much, making the playoffs isn't our number one priority, and Steven Stamkos says, hey, that's not why I signed here. I do think it would be easier for the Predators to move him this summer because he's coming off of a 40-goal season. He had a fantastic final 3 quarters of the season. Steven Stamkos clearly showed he can still score at an incredibly high level. But That's the first thing that popped into my mind when I heard those comments, if the team decides to go in that direction.
I think the latter part of what you said is an absolute fact, and that is a tribute to Steven Stamkos, the player. And that guy, I have earned so much respect for watching him do his thing, because that guy is a winner. That guy adapted his game, and he did it for his team, even though he could have easily just said, hey, this is the way I play the game. This is not working here. Can you move me somewhere else where I can do my thing and win? But he adapted, he got better, and he was driving the younger players. And there's a huge benefit that this organization is going to get from having had him the last couple of years. And you're absolutely right on his value. He's got 2 years left, $8 million a year. Now, last year in the summer, I think you would have said, well, you could probably get something for him, but you have to retain salary. People probably aren't going to give you a whole lot. Now I can see a team saying, look at how he scores the goals. He scores different ways. He is still a fast skater. He goes to the net. He's still got, when he's 55 years old, he can still rip that shot. I guarantee you, he will still rip the one-timers from that circle. He can go out there in his sleep and do it. So he is a weapon that brings a lot to the table. So he's got trade value, but he's got the no trade clause. So I definitely think the new GM, he's going to have to weigh, what he thinks he could get out of this team. But there's no doubt these questions are going to be vetted. And the two guys that you're going to hear the most about are Stamkos and O'Reilly. There's no doubt. There's no way of avoiding it, really. But I would just present that I wouldn't rule out a new GM saying, let's stick with the youth movement and keep the anchors around and see if you can keep winning, keep the winning culture, keep guys who have great influences on younger players. And don't write the year off as, yep, we're just going to take a step back. Nobody's going to sign up for that. No veteran is going to be having a party if you just say, we really don't care if we win this year. In fact, we hope we lose this year. I just don't think that's going to fly with all these guys.
So if that is indeed sort of a philosophy that a new GM can come in and say, well, let's keep the anchors. Well, what anchors are you talking about? Are you talking about Forsberg, Yossi, and Juice?
Yeah, Forsberg, Yossi, Saros are kind of in their own category,
those three,
right?
But then
those are anchors.
Yeah.
Then Stamkos and O'Reilly are different anchors.
Exactly. So are you talking about the main anchors that's
to me, those are the guys.
Exactly.
Those are the guys.
So you would say Stamkos would be a part of that as well, or he's outside.
If you're keeping the anchors, you're
gotta
keeping
keep him.
Stamkos
Yes,
and
okay,
O'Reilly.
okay,
Yeah, at least
all
to
right,
start the season, and then you see where it goes from there. I mean, there is a possibility that it goes south during the season, and then you talk to him at that point and say, okay, what do you think now? But there's options, and I think that's the best thing that Barry Trotz has done is, like, I think I would be even more as disappointed as I am for the group. I would have been even more disappointed if they had kept everybody, Bunting, McCarron, Smith, and Blankenberg, and they had still come up short. Because they did balance it. They traded 4 guys and they got more assets. They got themselves extra picks. They have a ton of picks. They have so many things that they can do with those picks and the prospect pool that they have. So the new GM is going to have flexibility, and that's a good thing.
615-737-1025. We'll continue the Predators conversation coming up next. Your thoughts on Steven Stamkos' comments to the Tennessean. 615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on what the Predators should do this offseason as well as their season wraps up tonight right here at Bridgestone Arena against the Anaheim Ducks. Puck drop at 7, pregame at 6, right here on 102.5 The Game. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5 The Game. Vingen and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingen here with you, continuing our Predators conversation. They wrap up their regular season tonight right here inside Bridgestone Arena against the Anaheim Ducks. Puck drop at 7, pregame at 6 with Max Hers right here on 102.5 The Game. And there are a lot of questions surrounding this franchise. First and foremost, who's going to be the new GM? And once the Predators hire that person, then a lot of those questions will start to be answered, including what direction does this franchise go? And depending on that, what is the fate of Steven Stamkos? We heard his comments to Alex Doherty of the Tennessean in the previous segment. In case you missed it, he said, my expectation when I signed here, quote, my expectation when I signed here was to be playing playoff hockey, and we haven't done that. It's tough to call the year anything other than disappointing, end quote. He also said, I came here with playoff aspirations, right? So we failed the last 2 years. And even if, Willie, the Predators had to retain salary on Steven Stamkos, I think teams would be more open to taking on the full freight now that he's a 40-goal scorer again. But if they had to retain salary, they are getting some of that dead cap money back. The retained salaries on Colton Sissons and Matthias Ekholm drop off the ledger this offseason. The combined buyout of Matt Duchene and Kyle Turris drops down by $5 million next season. So you're gaining a lot of that dead cap space back. So if the Predators were to retain, let's say, 4 of Stamkos' $8 million, they've got that space now. It would not be as prohibitive cap-wise if they decided to do that.
Right. You would have to weigh how much more you would get. And of course, remember, Steven Stamkos has to say, yeah,
yes,
I would be agreeable to a trade to XYZ. But to me, what I hear him saying there is if you guys want to win, I'm in. I don't think he's going to go to them and say, I want out. I think the same is going to be true of Ryan O'Reilly. Based on everything that those guys have been through this year, they're not going to sit there and say, I want out of Nashville. And to me, that is something that absolutely has to be accounted for, because if you want to place yourself in the category of destination city, and that's why those guys chose Nashville, then I don't think you should be sitting there. Let's try to ship off guys like that. Those guys are gold, and they're going to influence other players down the road that Nashville is a place you want to be. Now, after a certain amount of time, if you don't win, then you're not going to be a destination city, as great as our city is, right? But I think in the pathway of we already have the 5th best prospect pool for whatever that's worth. We got a lot of guys that are coming up through the ranks, and little by little, you should get more from them. You might get less from Stamkos and O'Reilly and Yossi and those guys over time, but if the prospect pool is what you hope it will be, and you can make smart moves around that, then I think there is a pathway to being really, really good. And if you do that, Steven Stamkos is going to stay locked in and try to win for you. But if you go the other direction, then yeah, I think it could start a domino effect, and you could clear the decks, but just be ready for the consequences of that.
You brought up an interesting point to me off air the other day. The Pittsburgh Penguins are going back to the Stanley Cup playoffs this season under first-year coach, former Predators assistant coach Dan Muse. He may win the Jack Adams Award because of it. You have a say in that. You vote on the award.
My vote is due tomorrow
for Coach of the Year. The Penguins, nobody picked the Penguins to make the playoffs.
0 people.
0.
I mean, literally, probably 0.
Because the Penguins, they're an old team. And you brought up the point to me that look at what the Penguins did year over year. Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and I would say especially Erik Karlsson.
Chris Letang
as well. Guys who are all pushing 40 years old.
Those guys are older than Yossi, Stamkos, and O'Reilly.
Look at what they did 1 year after missing the playoffs for the first time, and God knows how long.
They've missed the last couple of years.
That's right. That is true. They have missed the past couple of years. But your point was, look at what the Penguins did. Is it possible that the Predators veterans could have similar seasons next season? Could Steven Stamkos be a 40-goal scorer again? Could Roman Josi play at a Norris Trophy level again? Could Ryan O'Reilly build off of this season, which was one of his best offensive seasons of his career? Could they all do it again? My initial reaction was, for as good as all of the players that we just mentioned on the Predators, I kind of put Crosby, Malkin, and Karlsson on a slightly higher tier. And I'm not sure how replicable some of these seasons are for the Predators veterans, but it's an interesting thought. I will give you that.
And we'll see how they do in the playoffs. But I think what's most impressive about the Penguins is Crosby missed quite a bit of time with an injury. Malkin got suspended, and they kept winning. They did a tremendous job. It's a little bit like the Predators 2 years ago, I think, just in the level of surprise. Elliot Friedman on his 32 Thoughts at the beginning of the year, he was all summer on their podcast. They were saying there's 31 teams trying to win, and then there's the Penguins. It was like a running joke.
I remember that, yes.
And here they are with home ice advantage in the first round, not only just getting in, but getting in the East, which is deeper than the West, and getting home ice advantage. It's a remarkable story, and it does show you there's a lot of different ways to win. Now, are they a contender to win the whole thing? I don't know. But Sidney Crosby is in a category of his own,
yes.
right?
As long as you have Sidney Crosby,
yeah.
I think you have a chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was an interesting thought because all of those players, Crosby, Malkin, Karlsson, Letang, I think to a lesser extent, but all four of them seem to find their younger selves this season.
Right.
And push the Penguins back into the playoffs comfortably after missing the playoffs for, I believe, 3 years in a row.
And yes, and I think what they did well, and their general manager, Kyle Dubas, who was cast off from as a failure for Toronto, right? That's goes into our discussion about who the new GM would be. If you're like Kyle Dubas, well, Kyle Dubas, they only won one playoff round or whatever for Toronto, right? You would say, well, why would you want that guy? But he's done a really good job in Pittsburgh because of that experience he had in Toronto. And he did not inherit a deep prospect pool, right? He inherited a franchise prospect pool that had been trying to win for Crosby and get the veterans and things like that to sustain the window for an aging team. And he got very creative and made some shrewd moves. So all this to say that I just wanted people to think outside the box. To me, there are more options than saying, hey, we're in the window and we have a chance to win the whole thing. Or if we don't have a chance to win the whole thing, let's break it all down and lose for the next 5 to 7 years so we can get the top picks. There are other ways to go about it. That is all that I'm saying.
One texter says, I know everyone is saying rebuild or blow it up for the Predators, but aren't the Predators essentially doing this? New GM, probably a new coach, got rid of players and multiple picks now. I don't mind some veteran presence, but isn't this basically already a blow it up rebuild already?
It's a gradual rebuild that they've been working on for 3 or 4 years, I would say.
I wouldn't say it's a blow it up style rebuild because
definitely not.
That would involve Philip Forsberg being traded, Roman Josi being traded, Ryan O'Reilly being traded.
Right. To me, that's a trying to finish last kind of thing, is blow it up. They've definitely not done that.
But like I said on Monday or Tuesday, I can't remember which one. My plan for next season, if I were the new GM, would be this. I would move on from as many veterans as I realistically can. So, for example, I would not re-sign Eric Holla. I would not re-sign Tyson Jost. I would not tender a qualifying offer to Justin Barron. I would try to move Jonathan Marchessault. He has a no-movement clause, but something tells me if they could find a place for him, he would accept a trade. So I would move on from as many veteran players as I could, and then I would fill as many of those holes with the kids. And we saw some of the kids this season. We're going to see more kids tonight on the ice for the Predators. Maybe some NHL debuts for the Predators tonight. But we saw Matthew Wood and Adam Wilsby and Ryan Ufko and Reed Schaefer. I'm saying bring in more. Go to Milwaukee. Look at some of the players there who who are perhaps ready for an audition in the NHL. David Edstrom, Tanner Molendyk, maybe Brady Martin. Fill as many of the holes with the youngsters as you can. And I would use next season as sort of a fact-finding mission. How many of the young players do I think can be meaningful parts of the future? So let's just say, for example, one player I mentioned the other day when we were discussing this, Fedor Svechnikov. He's played around 120 games in the NHL. He's in his early 20s, 23, I believe. Give him a year. Put him in the lineup. Put him in some tough spots. See if you think he can be a meaningful part of the future. And if he can't, you've got a deep prospect pool to pull somebody else up, because not every one of these young players can get a contract. There are only so many contracts to go around. So maybe Fedor Svechnikov doesn't work out. Then you pull somebody from that pool. So that would be my plan. And that may mean you're gonna be bad next year. It's not intentionally being bad per se, but it may be a part of it. But to me, the priority next season is how many of these young players can be a meaningful part of this roster in the years ahead. That would be my plan for next season. Matt on our text line says, no more qualifiers before the word rebuild. We are tired of mediocre hockey. That's Matt from the 757. Shout out to a fellow 757er. 615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on the Predators. Max Hers just walked into the building. High maintenance Hers is here. He will be hosting pregame at 6 o'clock for the Predators regular season finale against the Anaheim Ducks. Puck drop at 7 right here on 1025 The Game. Coming up next, we'll get back into the Titans. Mike Borgonzi held his pre-draft news conference today. He also provided some updates on Cam Ward. We'll discuss those coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service.
All right, let's talk Loan Pronto. Remember how the credit cards, and this is maybe a painful reminder for some of you, because you're like, I know credit card interest rates are high, sometimes 29%. And so it's hard to catch up once some interest starts building there. And so you may be getting nowhere right in your finances. And so many homeowners in this predicament don't realize you can use the equity in your home to access hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash, and you can nail that credit card bill with it. So with Loan Pronto's rapid equity loan, you can pay off your credit cards, your existing HELOC, your car loans, or you can get money for a home improvement project if that's the direction you want to go. Zero out of pocket. You can do this all from your phone. No hard credit pull up front, no appraisal, etc. And rates are at a near 3-year low. So call Loan Pronto and see how much you can get in about 60 seconds. Go to loanpronto.com or call 615-499-5780. Loan Pronto has 2,800 5-star Google reviews. They know what they're doing. Loanpronto.com or 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
D. Mace, Vingan and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We are live at Bridgestone Arena. Predators versus Ducks to end the regular season for Nashville. Puck drop at 7, pregame at 6, right here on 102.5 The Game. Normally, we are joined in the spot by Sportsnet NHL insider Elliot Friedman. He's a busy man these days. He'll be joining us tomorrow. So we will catch up with Elliot Friedman. We'll just be doing it tomorrow, I believe, at 4 o'clock. Speaking of 4 Clark Lee is going to be on the program tomorrow. We haven't talked to Clark in a while.
Yes, and they had their spring game. Was it this past weekend or is it this
It's
weekend?
coming up. It's coming up
this weekend.
Saturday.
Okay,
Yeah.
Saturday.
So we'll preview the spring game with our friend Clark
Mr.
Lee.
Curtis, Mr. Jared Curtis. He's getting everybody's attention.
All
the
right.
5-star guy from Nashville, Tennessee.
Are you going, to the game, Willie?
I will not be able to go.
Okay.
I got the Denison Big Red.
Oh, yeah,
I got
Big
the
Red.
I'm on the Big Red bandwagon. The number one ranked baseball team in Division III.
He's a baseball dad in the offseason.
That's right.
I may go over there. It starts at 1, right? Is it 1?
Yes, it starts at 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, yeah. I may go over there then.
Well, we'll catch up with Clark Lee tomorrow. We haven't talked to Clark since the end of the football season, so looking forward to catching up with him. So Clark Lee and Elliot Friedman tomorrow on the program. But today, Mike Borgonzi, Titans GM, held his pre-draft news conference, as is his requirement, a week before the first round of the NFL draft. Thank the Lord, we are 1 week away from the draft. And as I said to start the show, it's hard to fill these football-less months with engaging, insightful draft analysis when you've been doing it from every angle. Because when your team stinks to high heaven, like the local professional football team stinks to high heaven, you do a lot of draft talk. We haven't talked a lot about playoff football around here in a while. Hopefully that will change. So how do we pass the time? We parse. And we will continue parsing Mike Borgonzi's news conference this hour. But Mike Borgonzi did address Cam Ward today. He talked about Cam's rehab process from the shoulder injury he suffered in the season finale in Jacksonville. He also talked about how much of this draft class will be tailored to support Cam Ward. Here's what Mike Borgonzi said.
This class will be tailored to support Cam, what he needs.
I think you're always looking to support the quarterback. Certainly protection is one. Getting them playmakers is another thing. So to answer your question, yes, I think that is important.
Season program, but while we're talking about Cam, how's he looking in the rehab process?
Good. He's been out there. I'm sure you've seen some of the videos online and throwing, and he looks good. He's trending in the right direction.
He'll be throwing during minicamp.
Right now I think he's trending that way. So yes.
Any early feel? I know there's not that much going on, but for Robert's tone and themes and stuff.
That was Cam Ward, or Mike Borgonzi, with an update on Cam Ward. And I did see some of those videos. And you know how I feel about those videos. Cam rears back.
Slow motion.
He throws the ball. You got the slow motion spiral, the zoom in on the ball. And there's Wan'Dale Robinson catching that perfect spiral in practice. Everybody's excited. But that was an update on Cam Ward from Mike Borgonzi. So it appears he's on schedule for his rehab. It sounds like we'll see him at some point during the offseason program sooner rather than later. And this is why Derek and I and a lot of you have been so high on Jeremiah Love. I understand what Robert Saleh said at the owners' meetings, that defensive players can be playmakers too. There's no doubt that Arvell Reese or David Bailey or Sonny Styles, they can be playmakers. And as Derek knows firsthand, top-tier defenses are a young quarterback's best friend. But I keep coming back to the state of the offense right now. Calvin Ridley, Wandale Robinson, Jim Dike, Alagaya Manor, Gunnar Helm, Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears. To me, I'm not sure how much development Cam is doing with that group. I think it's a fine group. It's certainly not a great group. And I do think that bringing in Jeremiah Love would upgrade that group tremendously. So that's why I am, as we did yesterday, I am endorsing Jeremiah Love as the number 4 overall pick. Derek is as well. I know a lot of you are too. To me, I would be, if we come on the air next Friday after the first round of the NFL draft and the pick isn't Jeremiah Love, I am going to be wildly disappointed. I'm just saying. Wildly disappointed. Wildly. Incredibly.
No matter what.
Because
here is my counter to that. Is it supporting the quarterback is everything. But I look at it as a 3 to 5 year process and not, we've got to support him for next year. No matter what they do, they're still going to enter into next year with plenty of holes. I don't know. My expectation this coming season for them is not to jump in necessarily to the playoffs. I'm not as worried about that. I want to see progress, but I'm looking at how do you best build the roster over the next few seasons where you're transitioning into a brand new stadium. Like, you really want to have your ducks in a row when that stadium opens. You've got a couple years to do that. So I don't know that I would make a move based on what it does for this year. I'm setting the table for how do I maximize my roster in 2 to 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of this is about. That's why I asked Mike that question. They went heavy offense last year. Will they again go heavy? Not to say they will not get any defensive players, but will they look once again to lean heavy offense? Because he said something, Borgonzi said something interesting in the press conference. He says there's other avenues to get players and not reach in the draft. Okay? So if the best player in the draft is there for you, are you then not going to take him and reach for another player that may not necessarily be worthy of that pick, but because you need that guy, because you need that position, you're going to take him? Well, he's sort of indicating that, listen, we're not reaching in the draft. We know we got enough money, and we know there's another round coming along in regards to free agency where we can get, a guy or a player or two that can fill that void. So they're comfortable with where they're sitting right now. The more and more I think about it, they want to build this offense because ultimately that is what's putting butts in seats. The Titans fans have been starving for offense. Ever since, Tannehill, he got hurt, this offense, and then they traded away Derrick Henry, allowed Derrick Henry to leave. This offense has been going down steadily. They want to get back to where people are excited about coming to the games. And no one's excited about coming to the games. One, because they're losing, because even in losses, if your offense is exciting, fans will sit in there a little bit longer with you. If your defense is good, fans are still going to be like, man, listen, y'all need to start scoring some points. Especially
certainly sells tickets better.
Exactly, absolutely. Right? Offenses, and it does help you win ball games. And I understand offenses win you games, defenses win you championships. I get that whole model, even though I necessarily technically really don't believe that anymore. That defense wins you championships. I think a balanced team wins you championships. One that can score on offense and that can stop you on defense. That's what's going to win you a championship, because we've seen teams with great defenses and bad offenses. They don't go anywhere. Prime example, the Cleveland Browns. Best defense, but went nowhere in 12, 14 years, somewhere around there. Well, they made the playoffs 2 years ago. But
they've had flickers, but that's about it.
But that's about it. What this team needs, what this city needs, is an infusion of excitement. And then to me, that's drafting Jeremiah Love, who is the best player in the draft. But it also is going to allow you to win football games too and help your quarterback all the while.
I'm curious. I would love to know this. You'd have to take one of the insiders, big boards, Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, Dane Brugler. I would love to know how often their number one prospect, like what the average draft slot for that person is. So if Jeremiah Love is the number one prospect on all of the boards this year, and he's pegged to go 4th overall to the Tennessee Titans, I wonder what the average is. Like, does the number one prospect go number one more often than not? Does he go number 2, number 3, number 4? I think my point here is you may not be in a position next year, even if you have a bad year and you're back in the top 5, top 10 of the draft. You may not be in a position where at number 4 overall, you are in position to draft, by most accounts, the best player in the draft. So that's part of my equation here when talking about Jeremiah Love. Next year, the Titans could have the 7th pick, and they could draft a player who ends up as the 6th best player on all of the big boards. So to me, the idea of getting the number one prospect, again, by most accounts, at number 4, it's hard. I have a hard time passing that up.
Yeah, and it can happen once again next year because the way it seems, the number one prospect is not a quarterback, nor is it a defensive end. It's going to be a wide receiver in Jeremiah Smith. So right now, the way it's been going, once again, the best player is going to be someone other than a quarterback or defensive end. So this year you have an opportunity to get that guy because you already have your quarterback. You've made some moves on defense that should make you better, but you haven't done enough still. You got a bunch. You got a bunch of young people on offense, and you have an opportunity for all these young people to grow together, and then that ultimately turns into something. You hope that ends up with multiple playoff runs or either multiple Super Bowl wins or either appearing in the Super Bowl. That's what you want that young talent to eventually become. It was that way in the past where the young talent turned into a really good team, which that young talent helped lead that team to a Super Bowl, meaning the Tennessee Titans back in 1999. They need that once again. They need some young talent. I think they got enough of talent on defense. Could they use a rush in again? Yes. But I think the talent needs to be on the offensive side of the ball because the NFL is telling you, you got to score some points. You have to have a star on your team.
One texter says, are there no good left tackles in this draft? I know we draft one every couple years, but hopefully we don't get another pick this high for a while. I heard Mike Tannenbaum on one of the ESPN shows. He lobbied for the Titans to take an offensive tackle at number 4 overall. I think if the Titans did that again, because they've been drafting offensive linemen pretty high in the draft recently, J.C. Latham, Peter Skoronski, I think there would be a full-on rebellion if the Tennessee Titans took an offensive tackle.
If there was a guy, but if there was a guy that was legitimately the 4th best player, or maybe even like the 3rd or 2nd best player, then I could consider that. To me, the overriding thing is they need a dude, a freak, a super freak, a game changer, a game wrecker. That's what the objective is here when you're picking this high.
But to me,
regardless of position,
you're right. But to me, this team has a game wrecker on defense. They have one. Matter of fact, they got 2. Them 2 interior linemen they got. Those guys are game wreckers. They have no game breakers. They have none on offense.
True.
No disagreement there. 615-737-1025. We'll continue to take your thoughts on the Titans and the NFL draft. 615-737-1025. I am curious for Derek Mason's opinion on some of the other wide receivers in the NFL draft, particularly those who could be available to the Titans at the top of the 2nd round. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D Mace, Vingan and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Adam Vingan, Derek Mason here with you. Willie Donick off to prepare for his final broadcast of the season on FanDuel Sports Network. Predators versus Ducks tonight. Puck drop at 7, pregame at 6, right here on 102.5 The Game. Derek, if the
Yes.
Titans take Jeremiah Love or an edge rusher at number 4 overall, they're still going to need some help at wide receiver. If the Titans were to trade back, perhaps they could snag Carnell Tate. You have been on record as saying you do not think that Carnell Tate is worth the number 4 overall pick.
No.
You'd be more open-minded to Carnell Tate if the Titans trade back.
Yes.
But we heard from Mike Herndon of PaulKaharski.com earlier in the program, and he laid out his dream scenario for the Titans over their first 4 picks in the draft, from number 4 through number 101. He mentioned Omar Cooper, the wide receiver from Indiana, as someone he would love to be able to have for the Titans at number, is it 35? The second round pick, number 35. Who are some of the wide receivers who could be available early in the second round who you think would be good fits for the Tennessee Titans?
I'm not sure. Jordan, Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson. I think those guys are locked, potentially first rounders. Casey Concepcion, first rounder. He could fall into the second round. I'm not sure. Omar Cooper is another guy who the Titans have an opportunity to get in the second round. TD talked about Chris Bell, I believe, that he liked him out of Louisville. In the second round. So they have there's a plethora. I think there'll be a plethora of second tier wide receivers that the Titans can ultimately pick up in later rounds starting in the second. But when you're talking about top picks, I don't think any one of these wide receivers, especially the top 3 guys that I named, Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate, and Jordan Tyson, I don't think those guys are guys that you pick at number 4. Those are guys that if you move down, say, 8, 9, that's where. And Carnell Tate may go before that. Some say that, as high as number 6. But after that, I think there will be a run on wide receivers starting somewhere around 12, 13, where these top 3 outside of Carnell Tate can potentially go. So, but you still have a handful of guys that have an opportunity to come in and play right away. The guy Bernard, I like him out of Alabama. Branch is a pretty good player out of Georgia, Zachariah Branch. So they're going to have their choice of wideouts outside of the first round. And honestly, I can't see them really realistically taking a wide receiver before the third round. I just can't. Because I think they went out and signed them a slot guy. They redid Calvin Ridley's deal, so it's more palatable for them. They have 2 young guys that showed promise. So I don't think they're looking to get, unless, listen, if it was a Jeremiah Smith out there, then obviously you go get him. But there's not that guy. But outside of that, I don't see them drafting a receiver before the third round. I just don't. I think they're going to go, if indeed they're helping a quarterback, I think it's going to be via running back and offensive line rather than going wide receiver.
Ron says, question for you guys. Not sure if you can answer it, but in the later rounds, like in the 4th, 5th, and so on rounds, players that they haven't done much research on or haven't seen a player play or don't know much about a player, are they still watching and viewing tape in the war room during the draft or highlights during the draft before they make their next pick?
I don't know what happens during the draft. I'm sure they always have someone. They have all the information that they need on all these guys that they have the potential of drafting. But I'm not sure if they're sitting in there watching film. They may be looking at, measurable stats or, some other analytic things. But I'm not sure if they're watching film of a guy, because at that point, what more, unless you just want to refresh your memory on a specific guy. But outside of that, I mean, the hair's in the barn pretty much, don't you think? So
Yeah.
going over film, I mean, it's
a
not
good
a bad
question.
question. Yes, a good question.
It's a good question.
Maybe they have I don't know. That hasn't been something that I've been made aware of. It may happen when you're trying to decide on whether to take player A or player B in a specific round, more so the later rounds. So it may happen.
Tell me, Derek, what would be your worst case scenario? I want to know what the Titans do next Thursday when you come in Friday at 3:00. You are fuming.
If they move off of that spot and don't get 2 first-round picks in this year's draft, I would be fuming because whoever wants to move up, they're moving up for a specific player and reason. Whatever player it is, they think somebody else is going to get him. So if you think somebody else has the potential of taking the guy that you want and you're moving into that's a coveted spot. Those top 5 spots are coveted. Then you have to pay to come in this club. And it requires both of and that's what teams that have multiple first round picks. And that's it. And it seems like those are the teams that are sort of pegged to be moving, whether it's Kansas City or Dallas. Those 2 teams in particular have multiple picks in the first round. So if you want to move up that high into the top 5, then yeah, you got to give me your 2 first round picks. And if they can't get that, I'll be disappointed.
Skyler says the Titans need to avoid drafting a wide receiver in the 3rd or 7th rounds. Don't waste those picks hoping for a home run on a wide receiver. Use those picks for defense and depth in key spots. Use the 1st round pick next year in drafting the true number 1 receiver.
Yeah, if you're drafting a receiver that late, 7th round, you don't. And listen, there have been some late round receivers that come in and have good careers. So I'm not saying it can't happen, but when you draft a receiver that late, 9 times out of 10, the guy's not making your club. They drafted McDowell. Was it McDowell a couple years ago, 7th round?
Colton Dowell.
Yeah, Colton Dowell. They drafted him and he's barely played. He's been injured some, but he's barely played, if any. So typically when you draft guys like that, that's more of sort of special teams guys, fillers, guys that you want to develop. They're going to take some years to develop, but you want them on your team because you believe they can help from his special teams. And if the development, is sort of expedited, if this person comes in and bam, he hits the ground running, then hey, we found us a diamond in the rough. But outside of that, you're a depth player when you're drafted that late.
Are there any prospects in this draft? We're not necessarily talking about prospects who are going to be drafted by the Titans. Are there any prospects in this draft who you are certain are not going to live up to their draft potential?
That's hard. That is really hard.
Let me ask you this question. How do you feel about Fernando Mendoza? How do you believe Fernando Mendoza is going to do in the NFL when he is inevitably drafted by the Las Vegas Raiders?
I really do not know. He is, again, he's an outlier too, in the sense of he had one season. And I know, and listen, the kid that the Commanders drafted, their quarterback, Jaden Daniels. I mean, he moved around, but he had that one big season. There have been other quarterbacks that have had that one big season, and they've gotten in the NFL and they played well. So I don't know how good Fernando Mendoza is. I really don't. He's not a bad player. He's not. But I don't know how good he is or can be. There's nothing that pops out about him. Nothing. Everything is good. It seems like everything he can run. He has some mobility. He can move in the pocket. He can make the throws that needs to be made. So when you look at him, you don't know how good does he's a guy. He's one of those guys that can go either way.
Yeah.
He can be, and what I mean either way, I don't mean like a bust. He can end up being a guy that is just good. You know how people was explaining Cam Ward last year? That's why I asked the question, and I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I said, coming out, if these two guys were coming out in the same year, Cam Ward, the season he had, and listen, strip away the Heisman Trophy, because there have been a lot of Heisman Trophy winners that came into the league and didn't amount to anything. But strip away the Heisman Trophy, okay? Both of these guys coming out as a prospect, a solo prospect, who would be ranked higher? Or would they be right around the same? They'd be in the same neighborhood, basically, in the 80s. That's what I'm saying. Because Cam was a high 80, low 90.
Mm-hmm.
Mendoza, I think, like, that's why I said he can go both ways, meaning he could be an elite quarterback or he could just be a good quarterback. Because that's why last year people didn't want to don't draft Cam Ward, because he needs to be elite. And if he's just good, then he wasn't worthy of that first round pick, that first overall pick. I feel the same way about Mendoza. He can go either way. He can be good or he can be an elite quarterback.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I don't have a definitive answer on that one. We'll see. Las Vegas is a bit of a mess.
Mm-hmm.
So I am curious to see how that works. And the Raiders did sign Kirk Cousins as well. And I do wonder if the Raiders feel that Mendoza isn't ready, that they start Kirk Cousins, which I think would get a lot of reaction around here. Because one thing we talked a lot about last season was, why didn't the Titans sign a more experienced backup? Why did they go with Brandon Allen? We talked about the pros and cons of a number 1 overall pick quarterback starting right away. It happens more often than not now, but results are mixed. So I will be watching from that perspective. I want to see what the Raiders do with Mendoza, because they did sign, unlike the Titans, they did sign a quarterback who has a ton of starting experience in the NFL.
Yeah, they did. He can, meaning Mendoza, he can either be Kirk Cousins or he could be elite. Whichever one of these quarterbacks you believe that are elite now, he can be sort of in that next wave of elite quarterbacks. But he also can be Kirk Cousins, which is a good quarterback, and he can lead you to a playoffs. But can he win it, get you to the Super Bowl, and can he win it? I'm not sure, because watching Mendoza last year, even though I thought he was good, really good enough to win the Heisman, but if you watch Indiana football, watch Big Ten, there was a lot of times he really didn't have to. He just played the game. That's it. And maybe that's the greatness of it. That's what Tom did. Not making it bigger than what it needed to be. But when I need to make a play, damn it, I'm going to make it. And that's what he did, Mendoza. That is what he did. When he had to make a play, he made it.
Indeed, he did. One texter says, I think the Titans should draft Love on the entertainment factor alone, but I have concerns. He is a thin-built running back and has been compared to Reggie Bush. My concern, are we okay if we get Reggie Bush-like production at number 4? Blake from Mount Juliet and a Notre Dame alum, 2005.
I don't know. He may be a little bit bigger than
Reggie Bush.
Reggie Bush. I don't think he was faster than Reggie Bush. Was he? Is he faster than Reggie Bush? I'm not sure.
I mean, Jeremiah Love ran a 4.36.
I don't know if ran the 40 at the combine. So Reggie, did he run that at the combine? I don't think Reggie Bush ran it at the combine.
I have no recollection of that whatsoever.
But Reggie just was a different player. And yes, he can do the things that Reggie, did. But what sort of derailed his career was injuries.
Yes.
That's what derailed his career. And it wasn't because he had to run between the tackles. It was just unfortunate. So I wouldn't look at that in base base it on, what happened to another back. I wouldn't say, well, I'm not drafting Jeremiah Love because of what happened to Reggie Bush.
615-737-1025. We'll continue to take your thoughts on the NFL draft. It starts 1 week from today. 615-737-1025. We'll wrap up the show next. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you live at Bridgestone Arena. One more game this season for the Predators against the Anaheim Ducks. Pre-game with Max Hers coming up at the top of the hour. And it is disappointing that tonight doesn't have the stakes, Derek Mason, because had the Predators won on Monday, this probably would have been a you win and you're in situation for both teams. But the
Uh-huh.
Predators were eliminated from playoff contention on Monday, losing at home to San Jose. LA wins in Seattle, and that's all she wrote. So the Predators will miss the playoffs for the third time in 4 years, and for the first time in consecutive years since 2013 and 2014. That was, by the way, the final 2 seasons of the Barry Trotz era as coach, and now he is headed out the door as well, retiring as Predators GM. Okay, 1 minute.
I like these hats.
No,
that everybody has
we
on.
have to. Max Hers is signing autographs.
Wow.
Max Hers.
High maintenance.
Max Hers.
We're making his head way too big right now,
Why are
guys.
y'all doing this to this? This man's, he's not going to be able to walk through Bridgestone.
Max Hers is signing autographs.
Man.
This is how far we've fallen.
Hey, the people love Max, man. The people
What's
love
not
him.
to love? What's not to love about Max Hers? But Max Hers signing autographs. Nobody's
love
ever
it.
asked me for an autograph.
love it.
How many autographs have you signed in your life, Derek
Oh,
Mason?
man. Too many to count. But I don't mind them. I don't mind them at all.
Where
Believe
is the strangest place you've been asked for an autograph?
I've signed babies.
You've signed babies?
Yeah. At during 2-day practice and in the summertime, people just, can you sign my vest? You sign the arm. Like, okay.
Hold
keep
on
it
a minute.
moving.
What
Yeah.
do you do with that?
I don't know. They take a picture of it and then it's there for a couple of days until you finally wash it all off.
That's
Do it.
insane. That's a waste of an autograph.
But I mean,
Are you going to tattoo it on the baby?
probably
Maybe.
not.
I've
Probably
seen people.
not.
I've seen people get tattoos on their skin, and then they I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. I've seen people get autographs on their skin, and that tattoo the autograph onto their skin. So
I
imagine.
still wouldn't do that.
So imagine a grown man, Derek Mason, asking for your autograph. You sign his forearm. Then he goes to the tattoo parlor and gets your autograph tattooed on his skin.
I would think something was you need to go talk to somebody if you're gonna do that.
Well, here's the other thing too.
Yes.
Let me ask you this question.
Yes.
What is the strangest item you've ever been asked to autograph?
Oh man.
Or is it a
gosh.
baby?
I don't no, it wasn't a baby. I don't consider babies items.
Yes, babies aren't items.
I don't know. I
The
mean,
children
because
are our
I've
future.
had, people, make things and have you sign them, tennis balls, basketballs. It's like, this ain't even a sport, but that's all they have at the time. T-shirts. I mean, there hasn't been anything too outrageous.
Let me ask you this.
That I've had to sign.
If someone approached you,
Yes.
who is a big Titans fan,
Yes.
Derek Mason, I love you. You're my favorite all-time Titans player. Will you please sign my hat?
Yes.
And this
yes.
person hands you their hat, and it's a Michigan hat.
I would
you sign
say
it?
absolutely not. Oh, do I want me to sign it? Or this is mine? Oh, this is mine. I love it.
Derek
I was just
Mason,
asking about this hat.
and only in Smashville felt cowboy hat.
felt cowboy hat. Let me see. I'm gonna take off my
All right, take
current
off your
Predator
headset.
hat.
Hold on, there you go. Put it on. Show the folks at home. Oh, very nice.
There we go.
Our little buckaroo here, Derek Mason.
I can't put on my headphones.
I will tell you an honest to God
Okay.
true story about the weirdest.
Let me see how this looks.
I will tell you an honest to God
There we
story
go.
about the weirdest item I've seen an athlete sign.
What's that?
So back in the day, before I moved to Nashville,
Uh-huh.
when I was reporting on the Washington Capitals, every off season. Well, no, not off season. It was before training camp.
Mm-hmm.
It was during training camp. So every training camp preseason, the Capitals would have this Capitals convention,
Mhm.
and they would rent out one of the big convention centers in DC, and there would be players and alum and all of these certain activities, and of course, they would have autographs. So one time, I was there at the Caps convention, doing some reporting, catching up with some players, and I was observing one of the autograph lines.
Yes.
And a young woman came up in the autograph line and handed to one of the players what I would describe as an item you would purchase at an adult store.
Oh snap!
Oh no.
It wasn't.
Oh,
It
snap.
wasn't the most inappropriate item you can
Uh-huh.
find at an adult store, but it was an item you would buy at an adult store.
Did he sign it?
He did.
Oh wow!
He did sign it, and I remember giving him major props for signing it because who knows where that adult item was going.
Exactly. I couldn't have signed that. I just couldn't. Nope. I'm not signing that. No way, no how.
So stranger things have happened.
Can y'all see my hat, people?
Yes. How does Derek's hat look?
Looks fantastic.
I got, I like this hat, man. I'm gonna wear this definitely tomorrow to work. I like this hat.
He's definitely gonna wear it tomorrow to work.
Absolutely.
Folks.
I'm gonna wear it home in the car driving with the windows down. I'm gonna wear it.
You look like Woody from Toy Story.
Yeah, I love Toy Story.
Woody's Roundup.
Who doesn't love?
Only in Nashville.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Hey, well, thank you.
You're
What's your name? Brandy. Thank you, Brandy. I appreciate it. Thank
Brandy
you.
hooking it up for Derek
Yes,
Mason.
thank you.
On Fan Appreciation Night here in Nashville.
And the fans appreciate us as do they
And we
appreciate the
appreciate
Predators.
them. We appreciate
Absolutely.
the fans.
We love them.
Even if you don't like me and you think that I jinxed them on Monday,
Which you did.
which
You
I
did.
did not. I did not.
Okay, you say you did.
I stand by that.
Everyone else says you did.
Yeah, everyone else says you did. You say you did.
You know what? This is my truth.
And that's all that matters.
My truth says that I had nothing to do with the Predators' loss. But it does sort of feel like to me, Derek, that this game sort of has this last dance kind of feel because a lot could change
Yes.
by the time the Predators take the ice again here at Bridgestone Arena in the preseason in September. Because the Predators are hiring a new GM. And as we discussed earlier, that new GM could decide, I think this team needs a true rebuild, which means shipping off veteran players, bringing in younger players, and maybe you're not as competitive. So I do think that a lot could change between now and the next time the Predators take the ice. There are going to be players on the ice tonight who are not going to be wearing a Predators uniform again. So,
yeah. I mean, this time of year, and that's why I asked the question at the beginning of the show, how Willie felt, because this has been a long, grueling season for everybody involved with the Predators. It's been a long season for the Predators fans. But actually being in it and being around it, I'm sure it can, the emotions are, high and the emotions are sort of going back and forth because you did all that work toward the end to put yourself in a position and still came up short. And you still got one game left. Like you said, it would have been great if this one, even though it was the last game of the regular season, it was a you win, you end type of deal. And the feel and the atmosphere is a little bit different if that's the case. I think there's still a lot of people out here. I think the atmosphere is going to be great and the energy, but just think how much better it would have been had this been the you win type of game.
Yeah, it would be a de facto playoff game if that were the case.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's unfortunate that the last 2 years, and Stamkos said it himself, they went out and they acquired all this talent 2 years ago, and to look back on it after this season and say we got nothing for it, we have nothing to show for it. We really don't. Yeah, did some guys play well? Did we dig ourselves out of a hole? Yeah. But we didn't do what we came here to do, and that was to make the playoff. And it's been 2 years now. So that in itself, coming back, either this team is going to look completely different or it's going to look a little different. It seemed like they're running the same path, and it's weird. And maybe I'm the only person that sees this. Them and the Titans seem to be running the same race down the same road, in regards to sport. They sort of make the same moves one after another because their seasons have been so bad. When they were up, both teams were up. When they're down, both teams have been down, or both organizations have been down. The Titans chose to move away from their GM, move away from their head coach, come in with a new philosophy, get rid of some of the older players, try to infuse some new guys in here, some younger guys, some guys I'm familiar with. What if that's the same case here in Bridgestone? That the new GM and the new coach comes in and say, hey, listen, we're going to go, as you said, with more of the youth movement, some new faces in here. So how many of the old faces are going to be gone?
And I do wonder about the fate of Andrew Burnett. We talked about this yesterday, and we'll have Elliot Freeman on the program tomorrow. He'll be able to provide some historical context. But as I said yesterday, I think conventional wisdom would suggest that Burnett may not be here next season because there's a new GM. New GMs often want their own coaches. And Burnett, as I said yesterday, I have never thought at any point when the Predators were at their lowest that the team had given up on the coach. I've been around teams that have given up on their coach. You can tell the way they play, the way they talk, that they don't believe in the coach anymore. From afar, it's different for me because I'm not around the team every day the same way I used to be. But from afar, I've never gotten the sense that the team has quit on its coach.
Okay.
And that is a feather in Brunett's cap.
Yes.
But the Predators' record under Brunette since he took over is one of the worst in the NHL. He's missed the playoffs in each of the past 2 years. And if the team were to decide to move on from him, I think it would make sense. I have wondered if Burnett is the right coach for this team. I do think he is a good hockey coach overall. But sometimes, as you know, Derek, coaches and teams don't always mesh.
Yeah.
The type of coach and the path of the franchise don't always mesh. Some coaches are better for veteran teams, win-now teams. Some coaches are better for building teams. And I do wonder. I mean, we're not going to know until the new GM comes in because that's going to be his decision. But again, it would not shock me if this were Andrew Burnett's final game as Predators head coach.
And the part about it is that's sort of, good and bad, I guess you can look at it however way you want to look at it, is if they do part ways with Brunette. I don't think many Pret fans would, it would just be like, okay, who's the next coach? I don't think there would be any uproar on either side. It'd just be, okay, who's the next coach?
That'll do it for us today. One more Predators game for you coming up next. Max Hers will have pregame at the top of the hour. Predators versus Anaheim, 7 p.m. puck drop. Last game of the regular season for the Predators. We will be back tomorrow at 3. We'll have Clark Lee. We'll have Elliot Freeman. We'll have lots of fun. And we will talk to you tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Be loved. Love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful day. I love you. The team loves you. You hear that music. Don't you forget about us because we will not forget about you. See you tomorrow live from the studio at 3 p.m. on 102.5 The Game. Peace.